What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Fame Reality, where we cut through the noise and bring you conversations that actually matter. I'm Emma, your host, and today, oh man, buckle up, because this episode is going to be one for the books. We're diving deep into the future of Donald Trump, his plans for America, how he's seeing the world, and some strategies that, let's be real, most people out there don't even know exist. Before we jump in, quick reminder, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and share this episode with your friends. Trust me, you're gonna want to pass this one around. All right, joining me today is James, political strategist, author, and someone who's been following the Trump machine for years. James, welcome back to the show.
Always a pleasure, Emma. And you're right, today's episode is going to open some eyes. Trump may be one of the most talked about people in the world, but a lot of what's really happening behind the scenes, that's still under the radar for most Americans.
Exactly, and that's why you're here. So let's kick things off. James, Trump has been in the public eye for decades. Businessman, TV personality, president. But when people think of future plans, they're asking, what's next? Where's his head at these days?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Here's the thing. Trump's mindset has always been about legacy. From the towers with his name on them and to the reality shows to the presidency, he wants impact that lasts. And right now, his future plans revolve around two pillars: reshaping America's economy for the long term and redefining America's position in the global arena. But here's the kicker. He's not thinking small. He's looking at moves that could shift how we interact with countries like China, Russia, and even our allies in Europe.
So, not just America first, but maybe America reshaped, huh?
Exactly. And a lot of people don't realize that even when Trump is out of office, his team never stopped working. They've been drafting playbooks, running scenarios, and even building alliances with state-level leaders. This isn't just about running again. It's about constructing a movement that outlives him.
If you're loving this convo so far, do us a favor, subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with 3 friends. It helps us keep bringing you content that matters.
And trust me, you're going to want to stick around, because later in this episode, I'll spill some details on conversations happening inside Trump's circle that have barely hit the headlines.
That's what we like to hear. All right, James, let's rewind just a bit. For listeners who maybe only see Trump as the politician or the rally speaker, can you paint the bigger picture? What's the Trump worldview right now?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Here's the thing. Trump's mindset has always been about legacy. From the towers with his name on them and to the reality shows to the presidency, he wants impact that lasts. And right now, his future plans revolve around two pillars: reshaping America's economy for the long term and redefining America's position in the global arena. But here's the kicker. He's not thinking small. He's looking at moves that could shift how we interact with countries like China, Russia, and even our allies in Europe.
So, not just America first, but maybe America reshaped, huh?
Exactly. And a lot of people don't realize that even when Trump is out of office, his team never stopped working. They've been drafting playbooks, running scenarios, and even building alliances with state-level leaders. This isn't just about running again. It's about constructing a movement that outlives him.
If you're loving this convo so far, do us a favor. Subscribe, leave a review, and share this with 3 friends. It helps us keep bringing you content that matters.
And trust me, you're going to want to stick around, because later in this episode, I'll spill some details on conversations happening inside Trump's circle that have barely hit the headlines.
That's what we like to hear. All right, James, let's rewind just a bit. For listeners who maybe only see Trump as the politician or the rally speaker, can you paint the bigger picture? What's the Trump worldview right now?
That's a great question. Trump's worldview is rooted in competition. Think about it. He grew up in a family where business wasn't just about making money, it was about winning. Every skyscraper, every deal, every headline was about being on top. That's carried into his politics. When he looks at the world, he doesn't see allies and enemies in the traditional sense. He sees players at the table. And his question is always, how does America win the deal? That's why you'll hear him hammer on trade, on NATO contributions, on energy independence. It's all about leverage.
That makes sense, because even when he was in office, he treated international meetings like boardroom negotiations.
Exactly. And behind the scenes, his team is still mapping out those negotiations, thinking, okay, if we're back in power, how do we renegotiate with China on trade? How do we pressure NATO allies to pay more? How do we turn American energy dominance into a bargaining chip? These are the blueprints that most Americans don't hear about.
And that's what we're here to uncover. Guys, don't go anywhere, because up next, we're talking about Trump's secret economic game plan that could change the way middle-class Americans live and work. And trust me, this isn't the stuff you catch on the evening news. All right, James, let's dig into that economic playbook you teased. When Trump talks about the economy, people usually remember the tax cuts, the deregulation, and the push to bring manufacturing jobs back. But you're saying his future plans go deeper than that?
Oh, absolutely. Look, Trump's first term laid the foundation. But what he and his advisors are sketching out now is what they call economic nationalism 2.0. It's not just about bringing jobs back, it's about redesigning the system so America doesn't have to rely on foreign powers for critical goods. We're talking everything from microchips to pharmaceuticals.
So basically, making America self-sufficient.
Exactly. And during the pandemic, the cracks in the system showed. We realized we were dependent on other countries for life-saving products. Trump's team saw that as a wake-up call. Their future plan? Massive incentives for American companies to build and produce right here at home. And here's the secret piece most people don't know. They're already negotiating with private investors and state leaders to create what they call freedom supply chains.
Wow, freedom supply chains. That sounds like marketing genius and a political weapon at the same time.
You nailed it. It's branding, but it's also strategy. Imagine a campaign where he's not just saying, we'll bring jobs back, but we'll free America from dependence. That resonates with workers, small business owners, and even young entrepreneurs.
And this ties into inflation too, right? Because families are out there struggling with grocery bills, gas, rent, all of it.
Yes, and Trump knows the middle class is hurting. His future plan involves cutting federal red tape to reduce costs for small businesses and using tariffs in a more targeted way. Not the scattershot tariffs we saw early on, but precise ones, aimed at undercutting countries that manipulate trade. Think of it like an economic chess game.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. Tariffs can raise prices for Americans too. How does he balance that?
Great question. The balance comes from redirecting the revenue. Trump's advisors have floated a proposal, not officially out yet, to funnel tariff revenue directly into tax relief for working families. So while imports may cost more, Americans could see offsetting benefits in their paychecks.
That's the kind of detail you don't see in a headline. Folks, if you're vibing with this breakdown, do us a favor. Pause for just a second, hit that like button, and subscribe to the podcast. Every click helps us keep conversations like this going.
And trust me, you're going to want to stick around, because here's another angle that's not on most people's radar. Trump is seriously exploring a new infrastructure wave. Not just roads and bridges, though those matter, but digital infrastructure, expanding rural broadband, creating hubs for AI and tech development in Middle America. Think Silicon Valley, but in Ohio or Pennsylvania.
So basically spreading the wealth of tech opportunity across the country?
Exactly. It's about giving the Rust Belt a shot at being the tech belt. That's one of those behind-the-scenes conversations happening with governors and business leaders right now.
That's fascinating, and it could change entire communities. All right, after the break, we're going to talk about Trump's vision for America's role in the world, including some surprising moves he may be planning with allies and rivals alike. Don't go anywhere. All right, James, it's time to zoom out. Let's talk global. When Americans hear Trump talk about foreign policy, they usually think of tough talk on China, pulling out of deals, or putting pressure on NATO allies. But what's the deeper game here? What's the Trump blueprint for America's place in the world?
Great question. Trump's global strategy is built on one simple idea: leverage. He doesn't believe in endless diplomacy without results. To him, every treaty, every handshake, every alliance is a deal, and deals need leverage. His future play is all about turning America's resources, economy, and military into bargaining chips that get results.
So basically, no freebies?
Exactly. And take NATO, for example. Trump still feels America foots too much of the bill. Behind the scenes, his advisors are exploring a tiered system where U.S. contributions are directly tied to how much allies invest themselves. In other words, you want American protection, pay your share, or expect less commitment.
That's gonna ruffle some feathers overseas.
Oh, it will, but that's part of his style, disrupt to reset. And let me tell you, there are whispers that Trump is considering a bold move with Asia. Beyond the trade wars, he's looking at restructuring how America partners with countries like Japan, South Korea, and even India to form what insiders are calling a strategic independence coalition.
That sounds like a counterweight to China.
Bingo! Instead of relying on the old Cold War-style alliances, this coalition would be about supply chains, tech dominance, and military cooperation aimed directly at limiting China's influence. And here's the kicker. Some of these talks are already happening at think tank levels, with Trump's former advisors playing matchmaker.
Wow. Okay, let's bring this back home for listeners. How would that impact everyday Americans?
It could mean cheaper tech that doesn't rely on Chinese imports, stronger security guarantees in the Pacific, and a global positioning where America is less vulnerable to economic blackmail. And for workers, potentially more jobs as industries tied to these alliances expand inside the U.S.
That's big. But James, I gotta ask, what about Russia? We know that's always a hot-button issue with Trump.
Russia. Here's the thing. Trump views Russia less as a friend or foe and more as a wild card. His advisors are sketching out scenarios where, instead of isolating Russia completely, America might use selective partnerships, like in energy, to keep Moscow from leaning fully into Beijing's arms. It's controversial, but that's the Trump-style art of the deal.
That's a twist I don't think a lot of people were expecting. All right, quick pause here. Listeners, if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button, drop us a review, and share this podcast with your circle. The more you share, the more we can keep digging into stories that actually matter.
And Emma, one more global angle that's not in the mainstream chatter yet. Trump is eyeing Africa. He sees it as the next big battleground for influence, especially with China pouring money into infrastructure there. Don't be surprised if future Trump policy involves major U.S. business investments in Africa as a counter to Beijing.
So while most Americans are thinking about Europe and Asia, Trump's team is playing a long game in Africa.
Exactly. It's chess, not checkers. And if that happens, it could open up entirely new markets for American companies and create opportunities that people aren't even thinking about yet.
Incredible. Okay, when we come back, we're going to dig into Trump's movement inside America. Not just his policies, but how he's building something that might last well beyond his time in politics. Stay tuned.